Beskin writes, I haven't done any scrapping in months. I'm a teacher and started back to work over a month ago. I had plenty going on and just zero time or motivation. I think it might be time to get scrapping again. I'm curious, if you found yourself to be unscrappy for a while, what got you excited about it again? Glitter Girl, can you help Beskin find her way home?
Of course I can. Today I'm going to share with you a step-by-step adventure that you can follow along with if you've taken a break from scrapbooking and want to get back into the hobby and kind of have that feeling that you don't remember quite how to put everything together. Or if you've been scrapping without any breaks, but you've kind of reached a point where your creativity seems a bit stuck and you're feeling that you need something to change up the style of your pages. So this is one that you can follow step by step, but that doesn't mean that your ending page is going to look just like mine. Instead, every step is going to have an option for you to go and pick something or choose something, and as we go through the steps, that should all make sense. Now, I'm also going to use Pinterest as part of today's process. But you don't need an account, and in fact I'm going to tell you straight away there's going to be no actual pinning involved. What you need is your computer to visit the Pinterest site, but just a piece of paper and pen so that you can jot down a few things. You're not going to be creating by looking at the screen on Pinterest, nor creating a board that you can keep all these different memories or all these different ideas of things that could overwhelm your memory as you start to craft. But we're going to find a few specific things during different steps of the process. We're going to jot them down, and then we're taking that step away from the computer screen to start to work on our layout. So my first step is actually not to pick photos, but you can pick the photos first if that works best for you. If you have photos in mind, go ahead and grab them now. If you don't have photos in mind and you just want to start, then go ahead. We'll pick up the pictures later, and that's absolutely fine. That's what I've done too. So I'm going to put a link that you'll be able to find on the two-piece page for this adventure to the first Pinterest board I want you to have a look at. It's a board that's curated by the Garden Girls here at Two Peas in a Bucket, and it's all color schemes. So you can look through this lovely, beautiful board of just all different color schemes from all over the internet. And what I want you to do is just pick one that strikes you. So I've chosen a color scheme that has aqua, navy, and gold. And from there, I've made a note that my color scheme is going to be aqua, navy, and gold, and I step away from the screen. I'm not going to see if everything matches up exactly to the shades on the screen, but rather I have that idea in my mind, and I didn't spend ages narrowing it down from 10 to 5 and then to 1. I just looked until I saw one that I liked and thought I probably have the supplies to make that work. Stopped there, came to my supplies. Okay, so aqua, navy, and gold. I went through my stash, and this is what I had that would work well. You can use old supplies, new supplies, mix, it really doesn't matter. But you're just going to create kind of a little collection of things that have that color, the color schemes, the colors from the color scheme that you selected. Now this was the point where I chose my photos, and I tend to have a few baskets of photos that are for albums on the go, the things I'm working on at the moment, and I found these two that are from the same event that I wanted to scrapbook together. And they actually are quite a good color match. I don't think you have to match your colors to your papers in any way, the colors of the photos to the different accents you've chosen. But I think just coincidentally, it just caught my eye and made me think that perhaps the navy and gold would be a good combination with these photos of Tower Bridge. So now I'm going to get started with the page construction, and we'll have a few little stops for inspiration along that process too. Hopefully at this stage you have selected your color scheme, you have some photos, and now you have a group of supplies ready to go. I've chosen which paper is going to be my background, so this is going to stay 12 by 12 and be the very back layer of the layout. And I'm going to start with some mist on top of this page to give it a little bit of sparkle and texture in the background. A lot of that is not going to be on show at the end because I'll have the space taken up by my photos and the other paper elements on top of that. But I'm going to add the mist first. That also gives me the freedom to change my design if it all goes a little bit wrong. Kind of useful sometimes. But at this point, if you want to do the step-by-step process, now if you want to follow along with the steps that I'm going to use to design the page, then just keep going. If you know that the layouts I create are not particularly to your style and you'd rather have another design to follow along with, that's absolutely no problem. Go to Pinterest now and find a layout that you like, and there are different boards that you can have a look at. Remember, don't spend ages just pinning layouts that you like, but find one that you like and make a note of whatever it is about that page that's going to help you, be it sketching it out, or if you really feel it will help you, you can print it out or have it near your desk as you're working, and then you could follow the layout construction of that particular layout rather than following this one. Do whatever is best for your style. So I'm going to start with a stencil and my gold mist to add the color in the background here. And I'm just figuring out how far. I think I will go ahead and take it all the way to the edge. And that means I need to cover up the rest of the page, so that I don't end up with just a straight line here and lots of gold mist off the edge. So I'm just going to cover that space with some paper towels, and they're also going to come in handy in a moment. I'll show you why. You can also just use scrap typing paper. That tends to be what I normally use to cover this up. Just didn't have any handy today. Okay. So shake up the gold lame, and especially with mists that have sparkle, you want to make sure that everything is, that your sparkle's not stuck to the bottom of the bottle. And then spray over this area. And it's going to be difficult to see through the stencil on the camera, but up close, if I get close to it and squint, I can start to see when there's enough gold through the pattern. Now, this is a lot of misting, and that's because it's a very small little pattern that the mist has to get through. If it's a mask, like a shape where you just want the mist to make the shape obvious and you're going to have more free-formed mist on the page, it doesn't take very many sprays at all. You can do it normally with 2 or 3. But if you want the pattern to show through and be recognizable, then you have to use it. You have to use a little more mist. So once I can see that the sparkle has gone through enough, then I cover it up and use a brayer, rolling in just one direction, so that I can soak up all the excess mist that's on the top layer of the stencil, so that when I pick up the stencil, I won't just get a mess of mist everywhere else. So now I have that pattern there. This space in the middle is going to be covered up, but I want the sparkle to go over to this other side. So I'm just going to move it and then repeat that same process. Now, if you haven't used spray mist much lately and this whole idea is making you a little nervous, take some spare paper and just give it a try before you put it on your layout. It'll be absolutely fine, and it'll give you that little bit of confidence to know that it will be okay once you put it on your page. Now, I wasn't looking for perfection at all. I just want to have some sparkle come through in the background so that it gives it a little bit of texture. So you'll see that those patterns aren't completely 100% perfect, and I'm absolutely okay with that. So that gives me that little bit of sparkle, and from here I can add my paper and my photo layers without having that flat background. It means I've already got my accent color there. I'm just going to give it a moment to dry while I clean up the desk, and then I'll start adding things on top. With my mist all dry, my next step is to create a few layers of background paper to add my photos on top and make sure I get them in a spot where I'm happy with the design. I'm going to start with that darker contrasting color, and I've cut a large box of the navy polka dot, and I'm just comparing it to where I've sprayed the gold mist. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller so that the mist is a tiny bit more obvious. So just take that down a little bit more. And now you can see more of the mist around the edge. Now, I think if I was using maybe different photos, different width. It might work better if I had this even a little bit more narrow to show a little more of the gold around the edge. But in this case, I know if I go too much more narrow, my photos are not going to have this nice breathing room. It will just be like photo mats on their own, and I want this slightly larger box. So I think my step will be, when I have all the paper layers here except the photos, I'll add a little bit more gold mist, just a few droplets rather than getting the stencil out again, and just do that around the edge. Now, of course, now watching this, you know that you wouldn't necessarily need to mist quite as much of the page as I did, and if you get to a point where you know that in your process that's what you're going to tend to do, you won't waste that time and mist spraying all that. But I tend to overestimate how much of the page I need misted, and there's no harm, no foul, really. Now I want to add some color behind the photos and then have the pictures here. So these two smaller turquoise prints are from 6x6 paper pads by Create Paper. And then I thought I would really like to have some texture here, something that would bring the photos up off the page a little bit more and have some dimension. But as I'm picking these extra pieces that maybe weren't in the original pack of supplies that I started with, I don't want to bring in any new colors. So I've stuck to that turquoise and navy here, and then I wanted something that would be a little bit different. I don't want it to just sink into all the turquoise and navy. I want it to separate those colors from the photos and to add dimension. So I'm just going to go with a neutral, and that is actually a kind of craft colored corrugated paper from Amy Tangerine. And this way I can kind of stack these up, and these smaller pieces don't need to be exact. They can have a little bit of a slight angle and have that bit of movement, and then there's that larger box with the dimension behind the photos. And I can add that little sprinkle of the mist around the edges here, and I can just add that tiny little bit. I don't need a lot. I don't need anything hugely dramatic. Just a little bit will then carry that detail from the background into the center. And then the photos right here in the middle. I had my washi tape and thought this might be a good place to include that. I'm just going to have a look to see what I think. I have a few different options. I could do washi tape per picture. Or I could do one larger piece on this box, but maybe have the tape so it's underneath the pictures rather than on top of it. Or I could do something in the two corners, and actually the corners might work really well. Let's have a look. This way I can take the tape over several different layers, and I can then mirror that on the opposite corner with some tape that's going to cover all of those layers. And that gives me a nice place to add some small embellishment like the sequins or the wood veneers. And it's also helped me identify where things can go on the page, because it will work really well here to have the title start in this space but stop when it gets to the tape, and then that would give me the space to then take my journaling in a column here or in a wide column below the title. I think the next thing I'll do is the title, and the title is yet another little Pinterest step if you want to take some outside inspiration. If you looked at the photos and you've got a title already, then perfect. But if the title is what's giving you trouble, then go to something that, instead of searching for scrapbook page titles, on Pinterest I tend to look at boards that are covered in different posters or graphic designs with sayings, and I can find something there. So I had a look at my board of different posters and and quotes and things like that. I found something that will really work well with the story that I want to tell. So I'm going to add that in my letter stickers here and see then which space is going to be best for my journaling. My title would be too long as one long line, and so I've had to stack it over here, which means I don't have this space filled that I had originally imagined, but that's okay. It just means that I'm going to look at my embellishment before I put my writing onto the page so that I know what space I have to deal with. Think best to look at your larger embellishments first, because obviously if you start adding the small things in, it will be difficult to find the space for the larger elements. And this piece is just about perfect in size to bridge the gap between the tape and the lettering. So I think that is my first step. And then I'll be able to add some smaller embellishments here, and I think I like that idea of my journaling being on this side. I think it'll look a little too cramped if I try and run it underneath this, so better to separate it from the title letters. So I'll have a look to see if there are any other of the small, well, kind of medium-sized stickers and things that I pulled out that would be ideal in this space. And then I'll get my writing on the page, and then I'll come back to the smallest embellishments. So I'm looking for things that might be a little stripped, so I'll look at boxes like this, but see if any of them have text that would work well. And I have the same sort of things on this side. And then I also had those smaller Bella Boulevard sticker sheets that had pieces that would be a box or an arrow. Sometimes you'll find a sticker like this one that is great in terms of color and size, but not in terms of wording. So what I really want here is that outside border, but I'm not going to use that wording in the center. So I took my striped paper that had all those different aqua and navy options and cut a little strip of paper to fit inside there, and just add another layer to the sticker, and then I'm going to add some pieces on top of that when I get into the small embellishments. I also know that I want to add some stickers up here, so I'm going to be embellishing in those two places where I started with the tape before. So I'm going to have embellishment in this top corner and embellishment here, but I've got enough embellishment on the page that I can see where I'm going, so I'll stop now and I'll do my journaling. So that's what I would suggest, and even if you're following a different layout, if you're just looking at a static picture of a layout, of course it's a little bit difficult to know what order that particular scrapbooker went in when they were completing that page. But my advice, especially if you're feeling like you're a little bit out of your depth because it's been a while since you've scrapbooked, is to stop before you put all the embellishment on and go ahead and put the wording onto the page so that you don't run out of room at the end, because it may be that the embellishments you're using may feel like they take up a different amount of space than you judge in your mind. And it's good to not feel like you have to then find a place to put your words or leave them out entirely. So go ahead and do that now. My journaling fit really well into this space, and now I can work on these two areas of embellishment. I want to include some arrows and maybe some of the other sticker elements from the Bella Boulevard and Pebbles sticker sheets, and I know I want to bring in some of this gold somewhere. So at this point I can just pick and choose and see what elements would go best where. So for example, I'd love to add the little geotag up here in the top corner to start, because I already have that sort of rectangle shape from the tape, so it would be nice to have a shape that gives me a little bit of variety. And it would be nice to have an arrow that connects the journaling to the photos. If I can try these and see if one of them is going to work well. I'm not convinced on that one. We'll see if there's something a bit better. I actually kind of like this one to overlap. I'm still going to need something there, so I'll just put the pop dots on this sticker but not remove the backing yet, so that I'll still be able to move things around. And I have a little step of this process where I'm just going to be looking for different pieces that I can layer there, so I can add in things as I find them on the sheet. if your sticker sheets allow you to, it can work really well to mimic something that was at that corner up here to this corner. And this one is perfect because this is a large heart, small heart, same shape. This is the larger grouping of embellishments and the smaller grouping. So things like that are really handy to bring it all together. And then I can also include some narrow rectangles like this to extend that little bit of embellishment out a little bit. Need just a little something more here in this space, and then I think I'll be ready for the tiny embellishments to bring this across the diagonal. I've completed each of the 2 areas of embellishment by just looking for different stickers that would match from the different sheets and trying to pick something a larger of that shape here and then a smaller one from up here. Adding some tabs and a border strip from the same sticker sheets. I didn't stray from the few that I'd picked at the beginning, and I just have the larger elements at this area of the page and the smaller ones up here. But now my page is nearly complete, but everything is a little bit separate. I have this grouping, I have the photos, I have this grouping, title, and journaling. And what I would like is for one element of the page to bring all of that together and give a nice flow from start to finish throughout the layout. That's what I'm going to use my tiny little embellishments for, and in this case it's going to be gold sequins. And by not having an absolutely perfect place for them, but more a scattered look that goes on this diagonal across the page, and I want it to carry on right down to the journaling. That will give me a more fluid look because it will catch your eye and take you across the page like that. But the idea is for them to look like they were just sprinkled on, but of course then they probably end up right in the middle of the photo. So I tend to look for places that would be good for them to live on the page, and I look for placing them on the edge of things so that I have all those little edges flowing through so that your mind connects one piece to the next. Once I've figured out where they will go, then I just go back and adhere each one to the page. Here's my completed page for today, and your challenge, whether you've taken a long break from scrapbooking or you've been scrapping all the time, is to follow that process and see where it leads you. Don't be afraid to take outside inspiration and change things up. Your ending layout does not need to look anything like this, but do make an effort to stop and consider the color scheme, then the supplies that you're going to choose, then the layout of your page, your title, and so forth. Try those separate steps and see if that helps you break through the idea of being a little stuck and not quite remembering how everything goes together. With your own supplies and your own photos and your own style, of course, every page is going to look different, so I can't wait to see it in the gallery. Make sure that when you upload your page, you tell us a little bit about your creative process in the description box below your layout. And don't forget to check the box for this challenge. I wish you lots of luck, and for those of you who've taken a break, I hope you'll get back into scrapping straight away. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.
Join us next week for the continuing adventures of Glitter Girl and the ongoing mystery of the scrapbooker behind the mask at twopsinAbucket.com.